Hello, everybody. My name is Meredith Calloway. Welcome to today's webinar, Beyond Breaking Even, Why So Many Travel Advisors Fall into the Accidental Hobbyist Trap and How to Be One of the Few That Escape It. I am your host. I am one of the co-founders of Gifted Travel Network, and my current role today, not today, but my current role at Gifted Travel Network is Chief Membership Development Officer. And I'm really excited to be sharing with you the content today. It is definitely a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And it is something that I'm really hopeful that many of you will get something out of and take away something really good. I don't know why I had set it up for here we go. I spent my first 10 years in the travel industry as a travel advisor myself. And so I can relate to the conundrum of falling into that accidental hobbyist trap. And so if you are here today, I imagine that you might have times where you feel really, really tired of pretending that things are really good when they're not. People ask you, oh, how's your travel business going? And you want to put on this game face and tell them that everything is wonderful and it's progressing the way you want it to go. When the truth behind that is you feel stuck and you don't know how to get yourself out of that stuck situation. Or maybe you picked up travel planning on the side while you continue to bring in cash flow to your household income with your job, and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for the business to turn around so you can finally quit and devote yourself full time to your travel career. I can relate to all of that. Like I said, in 2001, I left a very successful corporate career to start a travel business. And I did that for 10 years. And I spent my first 5 years winging it, making all the mistakes I see every single travel advisor making that I've coached. I made them all. I made all of the mistakes. And when I got to a point where it was too painful to keep not making any money, I made the decision to go seek help outside of the travel industry. And I invested very heavily in business coaching, in mastermind programs. And then I spent the next 5 years investing in business coaching and mastermind programs and getting guidance on how to build a successful solo entrepreneur business. I had to do a lot of the tweaking what I learned to being a travel advisor myself, and I will talk a little bit about that in a minute. But here's the brutal truth, and I had been saying this. I've spent the last 15 years coaching travel advisors in building 7-figure businesses, and I've been saying for a while that the grand majority of travel advisors are falling into what I call the accidental hobbyist trap. The last 3 years or so, I've been looking very eagerly at the host agency's hosted travel advisor report, where they survey thousands of travel advisors each year and ask them lots of questions, one of which is a question on their average income as well as their average sales. And so in the 2024 report, the average travel advisor income was $52,000, just over $52,000. And the average sales in that 2024 report was $517,000. Now, those numbers look relatively good. And what's promising is the trend. Since the 22 report, they have grown. And they grew in the 23 report, and they grew even more in the 24 report. So those are all promising. However, let me share with you the problem with the income is that it is total income or total revenue, quite frankly, and it's not net income. So they are not factoring in any operating expenses in that number. So that's total revenues generated by the agency, the average travel advisor. And I know that your operating income is going to be right around that number. And so that is what I call the break even phase of the business. Um, so when I had been coaching advisors for several years, um, I came up with this a pattern that I identified because everyone pretty much had a similar destination that I was coaching. How they got there is going to be different for every single person. But for the most part, you know, I found it easier if I broke down the journey, the entrepreneurial journey, into phases based upon their sales threshold, because that helped me guide them on what they should be focused on based upon where they were in their sales threshold. So I call phase one the when you are selling anywhere from zero to $200,000 in a 12-month window of time. When you're in phase one, your revenues will be anywhere from zero to $25,000 a year, and your expenses are going to exceed your revenue. So you're going to be operating at a net loss in phase one. That is part of being in business, starting a business, getting into business. You're not going to break even immediately. Phase one is, there's nothing wrong with being in phase one. It's just, we don't want you to get stuck in phase one. We want you to progress to phase two, phase three, and phase four. Phase two is when your sales are between 200,000 and 600,000. And when you're in phase two, your revenues are going to range from 20,000 to 65,000. And this is where your revenues may still be less than your expenses. They might be a little bit more than your expenses. So this is what I call the break-even phase. And when you're in phase two, sorry, I missed this with phase one, the focus for phase two is building your client attraction systems, building your establishing list building systems, establishing relationship building systems. Back in phase one, the focus should be business fundamental setup, right? Just incorporating and making sure you have a separate bank account, making sure that you have the right E&O insurance, and identifying the right host to work with, those kind of things. But also more on the entrepreneurial side, it's very important that you are building and developing a brand that is unique to you, and ideally around your brilliance, which I'll talk about in a second. Oh, I didn't mean to go forward. Phase three is when your sales are between 600,000 and a million. And when you're in this phase, your revenues are going to range between 65,000 and 130,000 based upon the average yield you're making. And you are finally at the break even, beyond the break even point, albeit maybe not enough, but you are still in the green, no longer in the red or breaking even. And when you are in phase three, we recommend that your focus, you shift your focus to scaling for growth. What does that mean? That means using workflow systems to make sure that you don't drop the ball. That means, yes, using other systems that will really help you with automating the service of delivery to your clients. That also means delegating and hiring. So those are all the things that you want to be focusing on in phase three. And then in phase four, that's when you are at $1 million in sales and beyond. And that can go up and up and up. We see that with our top producers club members. They are well beyond $1 million, many of them. Your revenues will be $120,000 or more. And this is where we think the final stopping point, the final resting point should be for your travel entrepreneurial journey is phase 4. And when you're in phase 4, we recommend that you focus on becoming the leader of your business and not necessarily the manager of your business, and identifying team members who can take on a bigger role in managing, helping you manage the business, maybe adding team members, building a whole team. Even if you're a solopreneur and you want to stick to the solopreneur route, you definitely need to be supporting yourself with people, good people, that will help you stay in that leadership role. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 should be temporary. But what I was finding in my 15 years of coaching advisor after advisor after advisor is that people could get to phase 2, but they just couldn't break past phase 2. They would get stuck in phase 2. And ironically, the Host Agency Review's 2024 Hosted Advisor Report validates my own guess at that, because that 521 in average sales and the 52,000 in average income both put the average advisor firmly in phase 2. So what do we do about that? Well, I have I've really narrowed it down to 3 different blind spots that are what are causing people to stay stuck in this accidental hobbyist trap. You might be you might have 1, 2, or all 3 of these blind spots, but either way, we need to solve for them. So the first most common blind spot is not knowing how to grow your revenues faster than your expenses. It's that simple. That's how you monetize a business. And if you are not clear on how to grow your revenues faster than your expenses, you will always stay in this trap. So really the solution to this blind spot is to figure out how to grow your revenues faster than your expenses, which I will dive a little deeper in a second. The second blind spot is really falling short on marketing your business. And by marketing, I am talking about starting from building and developing a brand, a really good brand, one that is rooted in your brilliance, and one that really speaks in a way to your ideal prospect that brings them to you like a magnet. And there are this is something we focus on a ton at Gifted Travel Network. And we are teaching our advisors through our Travel Business University programs. We are teaching them how to build a brand as well as how to market a really good brand on a regular basis. And that, so that all the pieces to the sales funnel are there, and you ultimately are successfully building a book of business. And what we also see, which I'll just mention anecdotally, is that when our advisors do follow our guidance on this piece, on how to properly market the business, there's a lot of focus and a lot of time and a lot of effort that goes into it in phase 1 and phase 2. But once they get through to phase 3, they can really take their foot off the accelerator on the marketing side of their business, because if they've done the right job with it, their existing book of business will bring a lot of referrals, and it kind of feeds itself, and it becomes a self-fulfilling funnel, basically. The blind spot number 3 is not understanding how to properly scale for growth or manage the operations of the business in a way that it can handle growth. So let's look at what it looks like when you are falling into these blind spots. So on the monetization side, if you are taking any and all business that comes your way, you're afraid to say no, that is probably a blind spot for you, not knowing how to grow your revenues faster than your expenses. You've got to be very clear on what is going to be profitable to you, what has the right ROI, and what doesn't. Not charging a service fee, or maybe waiving your fee, or not charging enough of a fee, and not really having any kind of clear focus on what you want to specialize in. For blind spot number 2, not understanding how to properly market the business and build that book of business for yourself. Most likely, if this is your blind spot, you're going to skip core message development. You're going to most likely DIY your branding because you feel like you can't afford to pay, an expensive graphic designer or a website developer to make it look really, really professional and up-leveled and luxury. But the problem with DIYing your branding is that it will absolutely attract DIY type of clients, and those are not the kind of clients that value a trusted travel advisor. Becoming dependent on leads provided by your host. I see this happening often. And in my position right now, I am speaking to experienced advisors on a daily basis who are considering moving to GTN, to host with GTN. And I am surprised at how many conversations that the experienced advisor is asking us, do we have leads? Do we provide leads? And I will tell you the answer is no. We do not offer leads. We do not provide leads. And we don't even believe in the philosophy of a host giving leads to its advisors. And the reason why is because, on the spectrum, there's nothing wrong with it. It just is not in alignment with our philosophy. Our philosophy is we are empowering you to be business owners, which means you should be building your own book of business. We should be teaching you how to market your business effectively so that you can attract the clients that you want to attract. And when you become dependent on leads at an insane commission share, insanely low commission share, where you're doing all the work and you're keeping less than half of the profit or commission on it, to me that feels like a sweatshop, the travel advisor version of a sweatshop work. And I get that it can be very satisfying to finally have clients when you've been wanting to have clients for a long time, but I think it's an enabler. It's going to actually prevent you from stepping into the entrepreneur that you need to be to build a 7-figure business. And then finally, the spray and pray marketing tactics, where you're just, finding something that you can do to market, and you make a last minute decision to do it in hopes that this will be the home run that you've been waiting for. And I've been there. Trust me, I get it. I know I participated in spray and pray marketing tactics myself. And so those are just, some of the behaviors we see when you are falling into that blind spot. The last blind spot, examples of what happens when you have that blind spot is that you don't hire help. You're afraid to hire people because you feel like you don't have the cash flow to support hiring someone. You don't put systems and procedures and workflows in place so that if you do have people on your team, everyone's working in a silo and doing all of the things for each one of their own clients. And you become the bottleneck in your own business because you don't trust that anybody else can do it as well as you can. And I promise you, that's not true. So understanding that these are the most common blind spots that are causing people to stay stuck in that break-even phase. How do we solve for that? Well, let's turn it all around. And so I've come up with the Far From Average action plan, which is actually outlined in my book that's coming out in November, The 7-Figure Travel Business. The complete blueprint to building a rewarding business and remarkable life selling travel. And in the book, there is a framework called the escape plan. And the word escape is an acronym for my framework. So the E stands for embrace entrepreneurship. I won't go through it all, but basically the A, or chapter 6 of my book, the A in the escape plan stands for adopt the far from average action plan. And so that is a 3-step action plan that solves for monetizing it, marketing it, and managing it, right? So let's dive deep into that a little bit. So when it comes to monetizing it, the biggest reason why you have to figure out how to grow your revenues faster than your expenses is because the traditional business model for the travel advisor is handicapped. It's a one-to-one service-based business model. While you're making commissions, you make commission based upon the time in the day that you have to work on bookings, right? And so there's only so many hours in the day, and so there's only so many clients you can work with, and so your revenue potential is capped. And because these are lower transaction size amounts and you're making a commission on them, and then you also have some middlemen there who are taking their fee, and that's not a criticism, it's just part of the ecosystem. There, at the end of the day, the travel advisor is quite underpaid for all of the work that they're doing. And so you have to find a way to solve for that. And this is something that I learned when I went and invested in business coaching. It was a topic of discussion all the time. And I happened to be in business coaching mastermind programs where I was really the only travel advisor. Nobody else was a travel advisor. In fact, almost everybody was a business coach. And the people who were leading the mastermind and doing the coaching were also business coaches. And so they were teaching the members of the mastermind program how to sell for this from a business coach perspective. And I had to figure out how to tweak what they were teaching to the travel advisor profession. So, for example, one of the solutions to solving the one-to-one business model dilemma for a business coach was to offer group coaching instead of one-to-one coaching. Offer group coaching programs where you can charge less to a lot more people. So that's one way to do it. And then another way to fix their problem was to develop information products based upon their coaching, even a book, quite frankly, where you could sell something that was information that people really wanted to have, and that's something you could sell on autopilot while you sleep. So I had to figure out, okay, that makes sense for that career path. How do I add leverage really to the business model for the travel advisor? And what I finally figured out was when I started playing with the numbers, that the easiest and most viable way for me to add leverage to my business model was to increase the transaction sizes by selling luxury travel. So let's look at this. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the black and white of this. It's a tale of two travel advisors. You have Any Budget Betty, which is what most likely your business numbers are going to look like if you are not clear on, and you're willing, and you're selling to anybody and everyone that comes your way. Your average transaction size is going to be in the $5,000 range. Your average yield, that doesn't mean commission, that means yield, is going to be about 10%. So even if you're selling cruises at 12, 13%, not everything's commissionable. So your total yield is right around 10%. So just to clarify that. Average commission share is about 80-20. You get to keep 80% of your commission for a very low hosting fee overall. So your average revenue per booking is going to be $400 after your commission share. Now, any budget Betty is smart enough to charge and values her services. So she does charge a service fee. It's probably not enough, but she's charging $100 per booking. And so her total revenue per booking is $500. And if she does 100 bookings a year, which is, I mean, you can all wrap your head around that. 100 bookings a year is 2 bookings a week. That is a lot of bookings. And it is, that is a 40-hour job, 40-hour per week job. So, it's kind of her max is 100 bookings per year. And if she does 100 bookings per year and she's making $500 for each booking, her total revenue is $50,000 a year. And ironically, remember what the host agency reviews average total income was $52,000. So this is pretty accurate, I think, any budget Betty. So let's look at what happens when you decide to sell luxury travel. And I know, don't listen to the voice in your head that's saying, but I don't have luxury clients. I can't sell luxury travel. We'll get there. So let's just philosophically look at the difference. So luxury Lucy represents what your numbers can look like if you're selling luxury. Her average booking size is $20,000 or 4 times any budget Betty's. Her average yield is 40% higher at 14% because luxury partners pay higher commissions. She's on 100% commission share because she is at the point in her business where she can afford to pay the monthly fee and have a fixed host agency cost so that she gets to keep 100% of her commission. And that is something that we offer at Gifted Travel Network, because we do offer 100% commission share. You have to have a certain sales threshold to be eligible for it, but we offer it because I was you, and I know how important it is when you get to that 7 figures and beyond to be able to have that host agency fee fixed. And any kind of growth you do beyond that is all cream to you. So the average net revenue per booking for her with a $20,000 booking at 14% yield, keeping all of her commission, is $2,800. And she's also charging a $600 service fee per booking. So that brings her total revenue up to $3,400. And because her total revenue per booking is almost 7 times any budget Betty's, she's able to do 25% less business, right? 75 bookings instead of 100, which really relieves her workload significantly. And even with a smaller workload, she's making $255,000 versus $50,000 in total revenue for the year. Total revenue that still doesn't cover her expenses, and she is going to have more expenses than any budget Betty. But at the end of the day, she's still going to be taking away, being able to pay herself a 6-figure salary, and it's a viable career path there, whereas any budget Betty's is not. I take out the host agency commission, about $10,000 a year, fixed host agency fee. So it's an apples to apples comparison because any budget Betty was on an 80% commission share, and that is any budget Betty's hosting expense. So if that makes sense. So even at $245 in total revenue versus 50, we're still almost 5 times any budget Betty's. So hopefully that has gotten your attention. And so what I learned early on when I put these numbers on paper and really looked at the power of increasing the transaction size, I was like, okay, so well, how doable is it to sell luxury? I don't have clients that want to spend $20,000 on a vacation. And honestly, the truth is, what is more important is you can build that book of business, especially with the demand for luxury travel trend. luxury travel consumption has grown by leaps and bounds since the pandemic, and it's only expected to grow more. So there is an enormous amount of opportunity. Um, the you know stock market or corporate America also believes in that. If you look at the rate of or the investment in new hotel space, um, five-star luxury hotel builds are outpacing budget hotel builds by 5 or 6 times. There is so much more money going into building luxury hotels and penthouse suites, and then look at the luxury cruise segment where there are new ships getting built every single day. So corporate America is believing in this increase in demand for luxury travel consumption. And the other thing that makes it so exciting as an opportunity and a totally viable route for, multiplying your income in your business is that there aren't as many advisors trying to sell luxury. It's less competitive than your, mainstream space selling travel. So, and they're looking for something different that only a travel advisor can provide, the luxury traveler. They want that concierge service. And the online booking engines aren't going to provide that. All right, so that's my little soapbox on not only is moving into luxury logical, it's also the most viable way to add leverage to the transact or add leverage to your business model. All right, so let's talk about the blind spot of not really understanding how to market the business. Now, at Give to Travel Network, we are teaching all the time about the sales funnel and how to build an effective sales funnel. And the most important piece, the starting point of an effective sales funnel, is building a magnetic brand. You've got to start with a magnetic brand. If you try and add list building systems and relationship building systems to a brand that is not magnetic, your sales funnel is going to die. So we focus a lot on how to develop a luxury brand. And one of the most important things you can do is base it, root it in your brilliance. You want to wrap your branding around your brilliance or your gift. Your if you have a passion for travel, I know for a fact that passion is pointing to your gifts, pointing to your brilliance. And you weren't put in this body on this earth to hoard your gifts or brilliance. You were put here so that you can share your gifts and your brilliance with others and make a positive difference in other people's lives. But the coolest thing about this, rooting your branding and your brilliance, is it has a very magical shift in your marketing efforts. So the reason why there's a picture of a market in some third world country, looks like Africa, possibly West Africa, maybe, is because I want you to think about what it feels like when you do go into a very touristy shopping area of a third world country, and you have all of these shopkeepers or people selling things coming up to you, talking to you, following you while you're walking, having you hold their product. They're coming off very, very strong. And think about what your reaction is. Most likely is to pull back. When someone's coming at you from a getting place, and they are, because they want to get the sale, because it's going to make a difference in their life if they get a sale from you. They're going to be able to put food on the table. I mean, it's a little bit like life or death sometimes for them. They're desperate. And so because they're desperate, they're coming from a getting place. And if anybody's coming at you from a getting place, your natural reaction is to pull back. So how do you shift that? Well, you got to come from a giving place. And if you're coming from a giving place, it has the opposite reaction. Someone's going to lean in. If you're coming, I have something that might be able to help you. Would you like to learn more? Oh, I see that you're having an issue with that thing. Can I offer some help on that? So when you root your branding in your brilliance or your gifts, your messaging is going to be all about how you can help someone or a specific kind of person. And that makes your marketing have a very, very beautiful shift from getting to giving or being magnetic. So that's really the key to, or the key starting point for building a magnetic brand, is rooting it in your brilliance. We teach at Gifted Travel Network, there are 3 real fundamental steps to building an effective sales funnel. And that is, number 1, you've got to develop a core compelling message. Number 2, you have to establish list building systems. And by list building systems, I'm talking about email list building systems, where you are offering some kind of free content in exchange for their name and email address. And you need to establish relationship building systems, because if you are really good and successful on getting people to, give you their name and email address, and now you've got this list, and you're not building a relationship with those people on this list, you will lose them. So it's completely impotent if you don't have relationship systems in place too. Our number 1 relationship building system is the weekly electronic newsletter. I could do a whole 45-minute presentation on a super effective, incredibly effective weekly electronic newsletter, because I built the Global Institute for Travel Entrepreneurs on and the following mostly on the back of a weekly electronic newsletter. And I attribute a lot of the success that Gift had to a weekly electronic newsletter, where I showed up every single week sharing some, fun personal information about me so people could get to know me as a person. And then also having a feature article that was always helpful, always good content. Give them the best of your content for free, and they will come to you and pay for the rest. So that is relationship building systems. Those of you that are with a consortia or a host agency that offers you marketing support, that is wonderful. That is great. But that is not, your marketing's not taken care of if you participate in the marketing that's offered by your host or your consortia. That is a layer, a sliver of marketing that you should be doing. And that marketing would fall into this third piece of, it's going to help you establish relationship building systems, but it is not doing it on its own. And it's not doing the other 2 pieces of the sales funnel. So it's a very incomplete sales funnel if that's all you're doing to market your business. And then the last blind spot, the solution to that, or the third part of the Far From Average action plan, is manage it. And so my favorite analogy for this is the very famous scene from Lucy, the I Love Lucy show, where Lucy and Ethel are working at a chocolate factory for the day, and they're in that chocolate factory, and their only job is to take the piece of candy off the conveyor belt and wrap it up in its little wrapper and put it back down. And when it first starts, they are so proud of themselves because they're doing a good job, and they're like, oh, they're high-fiving each other. They're like, oh yeah, look at us. We're really good employees here. We got this down. We got this. And then the conveyor belt starts to speed up, and they're still doing it. They get a little frantic. It keeps speeding up. They get more frantic, and it keeps speeding up. And they get so frantic that they start stuffing the chocolates in their shirt, in their hat, in their mouth. And that is the scene captured right there. And if you have had periods of growth and all at once, you can relate to that feeling, and maybe even can relate to, waking up at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night sweating because you're like, oh my gosh, did I make that final payment for client B? When is that final payment due? Was it yesterday? Was it tomorrow? And so if you don't have systems and procedures and workflows, and they are, and you're using applications to keep you accountable, then you are going to have those 3 a.m. sweat wake ups. So my favorite tip for getting started on this piece, managing the operations, is to break down the sales cycle into 3 different phases, and then write down all of the things that you do, all of the tasks required of you, the business owner, in each one of those phases, to just help wrap your head around what you need to do based upon when you're in that phase of the business, of the sales cycle. So the marketing phase is the first phase of the sales cycle. That's what we just discussed. It's the list building efforts. It's the relationship building efforts, which would be social media, digital marketing. List building could be as simple as, having a speaking spot every single month, or having a Facebook ad that's selling or offering for free really cool 101 on river cruising. So that's your marketing phase. So what are all the tasks that you, as a business owner, that you have to do to make sure that you're effectively marketing your business? Write down every single one. Then the next phase of the sales cycle is the true sales phase. And that starts from the moment someone reaches out to you to the moment you take a deposit, right? So think about that. That is your true sales phase. If you're getting leads, you don't have any responsibilities in that marketing phase. And again, my philosophy is different, but I think you definitely want to be doing all of the tasks in the marketing phase. So it's your book of business and you're getting all of your commission on your own leads. So the sales phase, from inquiry to deposit, is, having that discovery call with your client to learn more about establishing procedures for this, having a checklist of what you ask for, what questions do you ask, where do you put it, and then the whole process for getting quotes and putting quotes into beautiful itineraries so you look like you're actually delivering on a very high level of service, and then eventually collecting all the details you need to make a deposit and secure a booking. So that's the sales phase. And then the service phase is from the moment you take deposit to the moment they return from travel. And this is the servicing phase. And this is where I believe you can really shine relative to other travel advisors or to your online booking engine competition. So what I recommend you do is, and you can keep a working list of this, write down every single thing, every single task required in each one of those phases. And ultimately, when it's time, when you're feeling like Lucy and Ethel, and when the conveyor belt has really sped up, it's probably your sign that it's time to hire. And everyone always asks, well, how do I even begin the process of hiring? What I say is do this. And if you've been doing this, where you're kind of keeping a working list of each task for each phase of the sales cycle, then the next thing you can do is go through every single task and assign a score of 1 to 4 to it, where 1 means that you're really bad at that task and it's almost dangerous that you're doing it. A 2 is you're mediocre at that task and it drains you. A 3 is you're really good at that task, but it drains you. You're in your excellence, your zone of excellence, and not your zone of genius in that task. And then a 4 is you're really, really good at that task and you love it and it enlivens you. And what you can do is circle the 1s and 2s, and that can be the skeleton of your job description. You want to hire someone to take care of those things that you're not that good at. And breaking down the sales cycle really helps you understand all the different areas. And you might actually, we see a lot of people finding that their core brilliance is in that sales phase, and they ultimately want to start hiring their team of people to help them with both the marketing phase and the service phase. So really, the conclusion is that when you have this, solution to managing it, and you're putting systems and procedures into place, you really minimize that chaos. It ensures accuracy, and that strategic delegation is going to help you grow. I can't tell you how many times we have advised advisors in our network, it's time to hire. And then when they finally wrap their head around it and bite the bullet and do hire a really good person, the right person for that role, they grow and they grow exponentially. So not hiring is absolutely going to keep you at a stuck point. So again, just to summarize, the Far From Average action plan is the solution to all 3 blind spots that are keeping people stuck in this accidental hobbyist trap. But the Far From Average action plan in isolation is not, it's the nuts and bullets to that. But there are so many other aspects of being a business owner that are going to get you to building a legitimate, sustainable, life-changing business for yourself. And when you surround yourself with, a community of people that are going to support you and cheerlead for you, you're going to be able to take action on things that you may not be able to take action on when you're in isolation. I call that the implementation gap. Now you know what to do, but do you really know how to do it? And if you don't have that deep understanding of how to do it, there's no breaking through this break-even trap. And if you try to figure it out on your own, especially on the marketing side, it's, it's very, very difficult to pull off the right kind of a brand to sell to luxury clients without really good guidance. So as my mission and the reason why I wrote the book, The 7-Figure Travel Entrepreneur, is because I am on a mission to elevating the profession. And I believe we elevate the profession by creating more and more and more 7-figure travel entrepreneurs who have viable businesses, who are showing others that there is a viable career path here. And so in conjunction with my book coming out in November, we thought it would be really cool to offer a 3-day workshop that does a deep dive into this Far From Average action plan, right? Where it's a deep dive. Not only have you learned the what, you're going to learn the how to truly monetize it, how to add leverage to your business model, but not only how to actually establish the financial projections to track your sales, to track your commissions, to track your success and your ability to get to your goals. A deep dive on the designing a brand for selling luxury, a deep dive on managing the business so that you truly understand all of the things that need to be done to market the business for phase 1, to sell for phase two and to be of service to your clients and offer a consistent level of service to your clients. So we are going to be, we're announcing a 3-day virtual workshop. Yep, it's virtual. So all you need is a laptop wherever you're going to be and a Wi-Fi connection. And it's called the 7-Figure Travel Business Summit. It's November 18th, 19th, and 20th. And again, it's virtual, so you don't have to worry about where you're going to be. And the time of each day is 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. And because it's 3 days, we're going to focus on that deep dive of the Far From Average Action Plan. So on the first day, we're going to focus and deep dive into monetizing the business or figuring out how to grow your revenues faster than your expenses. On day 2, we're going to do a deep dive on building an effective sales funnel or client attraction machine. And on day 3, we're going to do a deep dive in managing the operations so you can scale for growth. The ticket price is, its regular price is $199, but we have a early bird offer of $99 or $100 off your ticket price between now and October 10th, as long as you register by October 10th. Once you have purchased your ticket, if you want to get access to the recordings, very valuable recordings, we are talking incredibly valuable 3 days of content, you can purchase the all access pass for $149. After you've purchased your ticket, you will get an email with directions on how to purchase the all access pass. So if you're going to ask me the question, will these be recorded, because I am not going to be available all of those days, but I still want to, attend and, get access to the education, then buy the ticket and then go ahead and buy the all access pass after you've bought your ticket. So this is the QR code for the buying your ticket. The 7-Figure Travel Business Summit is going to be November 18, 19, and 20 from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. Early bird pricing, ticket price is $99. And if you want to get access to those recordings, just go ahead and buy the all access pass after you've purchased your ticket. And that is $149. So for all in $250, you're going to get access to business education that has been missing from your arsenal for a long time. Let me see. I don't see any questions. Hold on. And I think, yeah, that's the last slide. So I don't see any questions. But I do have a couple of minutes if someone does want to type in a question. Otherwise, I would love to see you at this virtual event. One of the things that is really, really exciting to me about this summit is that we have factored in partner lounge times on 2 of the 3 days. And what a partner lounge is something that we do internally at Gifted Travel Network, is an opportunity to learn from our existing partners. And we are going to so they each get a 15-minute slot, and we're going to do 2 1-hour partner lounge sessions each day on 2 of the days. So 15-minute time slots, you'll get 4 15-minute time slots to hear from luxury partners on how having deep vetted relationships with luxury partners is a game changer for selling luxury travel. And I think those relationships are more important than having, a Rolodex of connections that would be luxury travelers. Yes, that is helpful. That is beneficial if you currently have that. But if you don't, it's not a deal breaker. You can still shift and move into selling luxury travel and having the luxury Lucy numbers as long as you have the right partnerships. And that is going to mean having the right host relationship. And we are not the only host that has those relationships. It's not a commercial for GTN. It is really, really important if you want to sell luxury to be associated with a host that has those relationships. So Miss Violet B, the link to the summit will come to you in an email. So go ahead and look in your emails because we should be sending you an email right now, basically, with a link to the page to register for the summit. The times are 11 a.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern, yes. And the sessions will be back to back. We'll have a couple of breaks, but for the most part, it'll be a straight back to back to back to back. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me. The tickle in my throat is my sign that it's time to sign off. And hopefully I will see you and meet you at the 7-Figure Travel Business Summit. Thank you so much.